I have a question for you. Who owns space? If an astronaut plants a flag on Mars, does that mean it now belongs to their country?
Well, nobody owns space. So countries own the airspace above them, but once you get to a certain height, then nobody owns that.
The first thing to know is there's an important agreement called the Outer Space Treaty. It was signed back in 1967 and basically says space should be used for peaceful purposes and benefit all people. But as more countries and even private companies plan to go to space, we need to figure out more detailed rules.
How should we behave when we're in this new environment? And what are the rules that we could change, or what are the things that we could do differently and do better?
And that's the role of the social sciences. Social scientists study how people behave, interact, and shape the world around them.
So social scientists can play a really important role in understanding people, understanding communities, understanding how people work together, and understanding institutions.
In other words, they're experts in solving problems together. Space isn't just a place for cool science experiments, it's a whole new world, or worlds, where even more people will soon live and work.
There are a number of countries who are participating in outer space, who have put satellites in outer space or put people into outer space. And there are also countries that might not have done that, but are concerned about the consequences of what happens in outer space for them. Ultimately, those countries have to come together and agree in some way before we can create rules that are accepted internationally.
There are also questions about who gets to go to space. Right now, most astronauts are from a few select countries, and space tourists are usually millionaires. So should space be open to everyone, or only the rich and powerful? And what about laws on space settlements? Whose laws would apply, say, on Mars?
We need law up in space because sometimes there can be conflict, and we need to know who owns what, who has what rights, who has what responsibilities, and it's the law that tells us who has rights, who has duties, and how we can resolve those conflicts between them as well.
Wait, I've just thought about something else. If a baby was born on Mars, would that baby be a Martian? These mind-bending questions may sound like science fiction, but we need to consider them now before they happen for real.
I think governments will still mostly be quite polite to each other, and will talk about sharing and cooperation mostly, and especially when they're that far away from their home base as well.
So exploring space isn't just about rockets and robots. It's about people and cooperation. That's why the scientists at Plans for Space collaborate with lawyers, psychologists, and other social scientists to make sure the science we do in space is useful and ethical.
I like to think about, space being a team sport, and we're going to need rules for that sport. So how are we going to actually manage things in a way that's fair for everybody and provides the best benefit to humanity?
Now that's worth thinking about.